Alright, and welcome back to Zero Cool Gaming, and today we're going to be doing a review of a PC game, and it's probably on more systems than that, I do not know. But it's called Aether Lords 2.
Using the power and magic of nature, one young Vital hero learns that it's not only her usual enemies she faces, but a new invader altogether. One who threatens the entire Aether world and all she knows. Eileen of Rowan Clan must discover the source and meaning of a new Synthet invasion into Vital lands.
So what is Aether Lords 2? Well, it's an RPG, RTS, card game. And if that's not a mouthful to try to say, then it's even more of a mouthful to try to explain. I can honestly say the RTS elements are small enough and simple enough that I'll play it without it irritating the heck out of me, because I don't like RTS games. And while I can entirely and repeatedly state that, understand the reason I don't like RTS games is because they appeal to my specific type of addictive personality. When I was young, I got into a RTS way deeper than I ever should have. I mean, I was the absolute trope of a tryhard at this game, and I got so good at it that I made the game completely, it was useless for me to play it. I didn't just dominate it, I completely overwhelmed it. And that's when I realized that I shouldn't play RTS games, because I will break them. Assuming that you can break them. And with most RTS games, you absolutely can break them. Just by mastering the abilities that it gives you, and then min-maxing certain abilities within that allows you to advance faster than you probably should, get stronger than you really should, and just completely dominate the game as a result. So I stopped playing them, because that's, while though I am addicted to that, and I want more of it, I also know that that's truly not what I'm playing games for. And after a while, it's not even enjoyable for me anymore. It becomes something that I have to do, if that makes any sense. I have to figure out what is the most efficient, perfect way to play. And that's not fun for me anymore. That's an addiction, and I don't like addiction. So that's why I don't play RTS games. Like I said, the RTS elements in this game are pretty simple, pretty basic, and they're not the only aspect to it. Therefore, even though I could absolutely go out of my way to figure out how to abuse them, I never did. I just wanted to have fun. And with this game, you can have fun. You have a deck of cards, you have an active deck of abilities that you've acquired. Every time you defeat an enemy, you gain new spells and new abilities. And there's also a resource gathering aspect to the game, where you go around the field and you collect different resources, and sometimes you give those resources to somebody else to create new cards for you, and sometimes you'll actually create new cards for yourself as a result of collecting these resources. So there's a whole lot to it besides just one aspect of it. And then you have the RPG elements, and it's a turn-based RPG. Your character themselves level up. You have abilities that level up, and you can level up your spells as well as a direct result of all of that. So not only can you create stronger, better spells, but you can make the spells that you have better. As you get further into the game, you'll actually start to discard certain spells, and while I am the type who likes to keep one of everything, this game literally won't allow you to do that, especially as you get further into it. Now in the beginning, yes, you can, but eventually that actually starts to hurt you, and you'll soft lock yourself if you continue that desire. You also don't want to completely fill your deck with just the most powerful things that you have available, because you won't have the ether to power it all. So there's a balance that has to occur, and you have to keep things in balance for the level you are, as well as the difficulty of the enemies that you're facing. It's all a balance game, truly. And I like that about this game. I like the balance. I like the way that it presented itself, and it takes you through all of its different mechanics very slowly, and explains them all in detail so that you can understand them and use them appropriately. There's also a story element to this game, and the story, while although you could say it's very generic, it's still a decent story. So what's the story about in this game? Well, the story starts out where this enemy has started to attack your territory, and these enemies that are attacking you at one time, a long time in your past, had treaties with you. They provided different teleporters for you to install all over your territories, allowing you to quick travel, allowing them to quick travel. They allowed free trade, peaceful relations. All of these things happened a long time ago. And when the game starts, for whatever reason, a sect of these people who had provided you with all of these things, out of nowhere, just simply started to attack your kingdom. They didn't tell you why. They didn't explain their actions or their reasoning. They just started to do so. And in the small town that you're starting in, they've had nothing but relentless attacks over and over and over again. And you help with the defense of the town right off. And then you're asked to go see a warrior in the woods who can create spells to see if she can provide you with any new ones. And when you get there, she tells you that she's already used all of her resources helping others. But if you could acquire the resources that she needs, which you can find right there in that area, she'll be able to create new spells or cards for you. So you do all of that, and she creates new cards for you. And you build your deck accordingly, and then you'll fight some more of the actual enemies besides just the monsters that are in the area. And in doing so, you actually dispel the magics around the teleporter, allowing you to return to your village that you started from. And you get the understanding that as you defeat more of these enemies, you will be able to restore more and more teleporters around your lands or around the territory that you're defending. And when you return to the town, you're asked to travel south from that town to help others and hopefully restore their teleporters as well, to disband the magics that have locked everyone in their respective area. But for whatever reason, these teleporters that are locked to your kind are still open to the enemy to use as they would see fit. So, not a good situation to be in. Alright, so as you play through this game, you start to realize... Really? Okay. You start to realize that there's more than just two factions. And you don't know how these factions are allied or enemies, but there's definitely some strange things going on. So, you're asked to go to this forest and prevent this spring from becoming corrupted. And on your way there, you're stopped by one of the initiates and told that you can't enter the forest until you become an initiate, or you're initiated. That's the way to put that. And of course they refuse to enter the forest because they're not initiated, and there's no one around to initiate you. So you tell them to go ahead and guard the exit to the forest, and you're going to enter and do what you can to try to save the forest, you know, and let the forest do with you what it will. In doing so, of course, you meet up with more Rusties, and Rusties are the main enemy that you know are your enemy at this point. And then you have this scout, which isn't a Rusty. It's some winged being, and they ride mounts that are much different than your own, but still living mounts. And initially you thought that this was the being that was going to corrupt the well, but they didn't. And in fact they repaired the teleporter, which you thought was odd, but nonetheless, that's what they've done. And along the way, you come across different shrines, and you pick up a few more artifacts. And artifacts in this game are a little different than what they are in other games. There's something that you can use, and you use up their usage, but you also have recharge stations where you can recharge your artifacts. So as long as you don't completely use them up, you can always recharge them. So it's a very odd story, and in truth there are 4 factions. You have your kind, you have these winged beings, you have the Rusties, and then you have Chaos. And Chaos creates creatures that are rotting and corrupted, hollow shells of what they once were. Rusties create machines that are not machines, monsters that are mechanized. And the winged beings, you don't know what they do yet, but you know to be fearful of them because they're very powerful. So essentially, you end up encountering relatively quickly in the game 3 of the 4 factions. And while you may not understand any of their goals, it would seem that Chaos is not actually in league with the Rusties because they do fight each other. And there have been many townsfolk who will tell you this fact, that they've seen them fighting each other. And the winged beings are always seen initially as just scouts for the Rusties, but you know that can't be true because A, they prevented the Rusties from corrupting the forest. They didn't stop them from entering it. They also didn't defeat any of them in there, but they certainly weren't allied with them. But you don't know what their goal is, and you don't know if it aligns with your own, or your own people's. So it's a very odd story to tell, to say the least. So when you make your way to the capital city, there's 3 tasks that you're asked to complete. One of those tasks is to find the dragon trainer so that the dragon can be returned to the city. You're asked to find the old Trent that helps to guard the city itself. He's a tree creature. And then you're asked to find the son of the ruler of the city, I guess is a way of putting that, because he's gone missing. So the first person that you'll find is the lady that trains the dragon, and she tells you that the dragon has been acting odd lately because it's been hearing songs all over the place from beings that aren't normally in this area. And the only one who can hear those songs are the dragon itself. The next being that you'll find along your path will be the Trent, or the tree creature. And he's been locked up to prevent his return to the city. So you have to then go find the key. And one of the things about this game is that, in truth, there's not a lot of enemies. And by this stage of the game, a single battle can take over a half hour. Not that they're super intricate or anything like that. It's that you have to summon the right creatures, use the correct spells. You got to do all this stuff in the right order. Otherwise, this game it can be rather unforgiving if you make mistake after mistake after mistake. It'll just slaughter you. And then you'll have to go back to your previous save and try to figure out a better strategy. But what it is good at is showing you what types of things you need to do and in what order you need to do them in order to win each battle. And it does that by each battle, of course, getting progressively harder. But your enemies show you the most efficient or effective summonings that you may have, quite literally, and how to use those summonings in an effective or devastating way. So it literally teaches you the new spells or spells that you already have, and it may even teach you a better way to use them in combination with things like your artifacts or your accessories. And accessories are cards as well. So you have a lot of different resources at your disposal. I shouldn't use the word resources there. You have a lot of different options at your disposal. And one of the things that this game also requires you to do is to collect a lot of resources. And resources can be found all throughout the map. There's even resource farms that can be found throughout the map. So, like I was saying, when you're going after the Trent creature, you can take on, it's like 3 or 4 extra little battles, and I call them little, an extra hour and a half, to gain another artifact. And in that whole area, you may have only had, 4 battles up to this point, so it's, basically that again. But in the process of taking on those extra 3 battles, you gain an artifact. And I think it's totally worth it, in my opinion. So after you free the tree dude, he tells you to, head back to the city and have a talk with him. You don't need to. You can complete all 3 tasks that you need to do before returning to the city and talking to anyone. So then the next task that you're going to come across is the leader of the city's son. And you'll find him imprisoned in a city that's been sacked by the enemy. And you have like three battles, I believe, before you get to him. Well, it's not a whole lot of battles. And when you free him, of course, he says the same thing. Come back to the city and we'll have a talk. Everybody will sing the praises of your great warriorness. Because, of course, they will. And then you have an artifact actually in the same cell that he was imprisoned. And then you have resources. And there's a lot of resources around here. But you'll need to get in like 4 other battles to collect all those resources before you head back to the city. And like I said, there's not a lot of battles. But the battles do take a while for each one. So once you get back to the city, of course, they sing all your praises and tell you you'll be remembered. And they even give you a few items. They give you some spells. And then you're told that the next problem that needs to be solved are the entrenched enemies, or the fortified enemies that still are in your lands. And these enemies are going to be a lot more difficult to remove because they're inside of fortifications. So you're entering into a new stage, if you want to call it that, of battles, and how those battles are going to play out and how those battles are going to look. Because, of course, a fortified enemy is going to have much greater defenses than you do trying to attack it. Just trying to give you an understanding of how this game plays out. It's still pretty cool, though. I mean, I enjoy the heck out of it. But you do really... Well, I don't say you don't have to. It would be to your benefit to clear out every area that you're in before moving on. Even though the amount of experience that you're going to get for those secondary battles is low. Like 25 experience here, 50 experience there. And your main quest battles against the actual enemy will give you, 200 experience, 400 experience, 500 experience. So it's a huge difference. But all those little battles do add up. It's just something that you might want to think about when playing this game. Okay, so finally you learn that the Vitals, which is what you are, have a traitor within their ranks. And that traitor is working with another species. But it's not like he is doing their bidding. No, instead he's using their knowledge to make himself more powerful. For not so good reasons. He's learning how to turn one being into another, and he's even using his own kind for experimentation on doing such things. So really not a good guy. And finally, of course, you have to defeat him, and when you do, you go back and everybody sings the praises of how wonderful you are and how you save the forest and you save nature, and everybody will be building statues in your name and whatnot. And then when you enter the portal, you realize that your adventure, in truth, has just begun, because you've only finished the first section out of 5 sections in this campaign. And the next section that you'll do, assuming that you start with the Vitalis in nature, will be the Synthets and their machine magic instead of nature magic. Now, while though the gameplay is similar, you'll have all new spells, all new creatures that you can summon, all different artifacts and their abilities, and the Synthets have their own, what are these people called again? Their hero has his own story, where he starts out just like you did as an initiate, a new recruit within the ranks, and you'll have to build your way up to becoming the hero of your kind who defeats the unthinkable. And that's kind of how this game plays out. So basically you have, like I said, 5 different campaigns that you play. Like I said to begin with, you play as the Vitalists. If you want to start that way, there's 2 ways you can start the game, either as a Chaot or Vitalis, but I like starting as a Vitalis, which is nature magic. Then you have the Synthets, which are machine magic. Then you have the Chaots, which are flame magic. And then you have the I'm really bad with names, so give me a second here. The Kinets, which are air magic. And each of these species have their own hero, their own story, and what they need to do to overcome the invasion, or the those who are destroying their lands. And once you finish these initial 4 campaigns, all these heroes will come together in one place, to summon Dimanthra. Now, Dimanthra is like a super being who's capable of using aspects of all four of the different ethers, and can summon, different parts of each one. But again, even she has her own unique spells, her own unique abilities, artifacts, her own campaign, and her own unique story. And that story comes to a climax when you go to fight against the White Lord, which is the end boss of this game. But she can literally use spells from all the different species, all four of the different species. And it makes for an interesting game, to say the least. And the better that you advanced each of your characters as you play through the campaign, each of the four different heroes, the better off she'll be in being able to advance herself as she goes through her campaign. So the game, in truth, takes 10 to 20 hours for each campaign, depending on whether or not you go through every area as much as possible to find as many of the different artifacts and level up all of your skills, your abilities, the different spells, gather up all the different unique, powerful spells. If you go through and actually do that for each hero, each campaign is going to be like 20 hours long. Which means that this game is 100 hours of gameplay. 5 campaigns, 20 hours each. So it is a rather long game. But it's also a fun game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've gone through and explained just the first part of the campaign so that you can get an idea of what this game is about, how it plays out, what are the different parts within it, and how that all comes together. You still, no matter what campaign you're playing, you still have a deck, you still have spells, you still have unique spells, and you still have artifacts, as well as the skills that you can advance along the way. Each of the skills section, depending on what particular campaign you're playing, or not campaign, what particular hero you're playing, it may be more advantageous to level up certain skills over others, and to prioritize certain skills over others, just because of their unique abilities, or their, leaning in one direction or another, their actual, base stat build, and what they're capable of doing and what they're good at doing. So each campaign truly is unique upon itself. You can try to augment that and make it easier on yourself, or you can try to spread it out to make them an all-around character. I don't think there's any builds that will flat out soft lock you, but there's certainly builds that can make this game very difficult to get through certain battles, especially if you're not taking the extra time needed to get all the different artifacts as you go through them. And it tells you exactly how many artifacts there are for each campaign. You don't really have, like I said, a limit on your spells, at least not completely. You can carry quite a bit. But some spells are obviously more useful than others, especially against particular enemies. And that'll actually be the hard part of this game, is figuring out what enemies are weak to certain spells, especially if you lose against that enemy and you have to go up against them again. You know, go back to your previous save and try it again. Learning what they're weak against and what they're not plays a big role in this game, truly. A lot of times you can figure that out just by looking at the prestats, if you want to call it that. The cursory information that they give you about your enemy before you actually engage with them. And that's all very helpful. It makes it so much easier, especially if you really understand what it's showing you. But anyway, I'm going to call that my rant for the day. I hope that you enjoy the rest of yours. If you could hit the like, subscribe, rumble, follow button, all that does help. And I'll talk to you later.